Welcome to the Original Gangsters podcast. I'm your host, Scott Burnstein, quick hitter edition. We're going to go across the border out to Canada and talk about Fred Faucher, former Rock Machine boss turned, I guess, good guy, activist, somebody that's trying to give back to the community as opposed to bringing chaos and bloodshed like he did in the 1990s. There aren't a lot of happy endings in the underworld, biker bosses, mob bosses, drug kingpins. Faucher might be one. It looks like he is one now. And, the meat on the bone in this story is that in a odd decision by the government, the parole board. When I say odd, I guess I mean out of the ordinary, not necessarily passing judgment on it. Has decided to deliver a commendation and an award to Faucher, who's been out of prison now about a decade, for how he's turned around his life and become a model citizen. The 180 that he's done from a sinister warlord killer to somebody that still a relatively young person, middle age, 55 years old, or at the end of middle age, I guess. And he got an award, was delivered a commendation by the parole board last week, and it's just it's noteworthy. And I've never heard of I don't care how great of a turnaround a guy in the United States goes from killer crime lord to model citizen. You're never going to see the feds in the United States deliver any kind of positive accolades into those kind of people. It kind of speaks to the way that they operate the criminal justice system in Canada. Again, no judgment, just stating kind of obvious facts. Faucher is a very critical figure in the history of the Canadian underworld, and he became that at a very young age. A lot of decisions he made had long-lasting impacts beyond the alleged 24 plus murders that he either ordered or participated in during the Great Quebec Biker War between 94 and the early 2000s. Faucher was locked up at the end of 2000. And he's from Quebec City, joined the Rock Machine, which was created in the 1980s as a answer to the Hells Angels. A lot of guys, major biker powers, as when the Hells Angels came into Canada in the 70s and started to absorb a lot of clubs, patch over a lot of clubs, and then kind of showed how they did business, the Lennoxville Massacre, etc. You had a group of guys that didn't want to toe that line, wanted to represent something else. They created the Rock Machine. One of the founders was, if not the principal founder, was Sam the Beard Cosa. And Cosa was very close with, at that point, the most powerful Hells Angel in Montreal, Mom Boucher. And the Rock Machine and the Hells Angels coexisted for about a decade. And then Cosa went to prison. And within a couple weeks, I believe, all hell broke loose. And it didn't stop for, almost 8 years. And you had, in the range of 200 homicides tied to the Great Quebec Biker War, including a lot of innocents. Faucher took over the Rock Machine in 97. So it was like 3 years into the war. Between 94 and 97, he was a warlord, a guy that was leading hit teams, kind of got real infamy and became a rising star in by leading some firebombing campaigns and attacking the Quebec City Hells Angels, which is a particularly ferocious group. Took over in 97 and, made the decision that, again, had a lot of ripple effects, which was to merge with the Bandidos, which is a, international superpower of a biker club based out of Texas. And Faucher was pretty aggressive in his courting of the Bandidos to allow or to get the green light from Bandidos leadership to create a Canadian faction led by the former Rock Machine. Faucher even traveled to Europe on 2 separate occasions to meet with Bandidos leaders in Sweden and in Luxembourg in this courting process. At that time, there was, as the Great Quebec Biker War was going on, there was the Great Nordic Biker War in Europe, where you had fighting between the Bandidos and the Hells Angels. Faucher eventually cemented the relationship with the Bandidos, and the Bandidos brought them in and patched them over in first week of December 97. Faucher was on the streets for another like 3 or 4 days after the patch over, and got locked up and didn't see the light of day again until 2016, I believe. And another, very integral part of that history to be aware of was that Faucher, at that time, was a really young guy. He was in his 20s. In addition to getting the Bandidos to come in, which pretty much spelled the end of the Rock Machine. I mean, it did. There was another kind of pop-up Rock Machine in the years later that had no affiliation, but he made peace. Made peace with Montboucher and via Sam the Beard's Casetta's connection in prison. Vito Rizzuto, who was the Mafia Don, Rizzuto crime family, knew Casetta well, became close with Casetta, and Vito Rizzuto brokered the end of the Great Quebec Biker War in a pair of meetings in the fall of 2000 that took place at the Blue Martine, and was attended by Faucher and Boucher. The final one in October, it included the media, where they took pictures of them breaking bread together and then going off to a strip club to celebrate. Very shortly afterwards, Fred Faucher was locked up. Came out 10 years ago and has, I guess, become a stand-up guy in the regular world, as opposed to a stand-up guy in the underworld. And the parole board in Canada wants to recognize that. So again, hopefully that's a happy ending in this world that there aren't a lot of. It's something that would never happen in the United States, but it's noteworthy, and we wanted to tell you about it. Any 1% mafia street gang stuff in Canada, we're on top of. We got great sources in Quebec as well as Ontario. A lot of inside sources when it comes to 81 Nation and the Hells Angels, and we're always on top of what's going on with the Rizzuto crime family. As you know, we broke the news about the peace that was created by those two groups after a 2-year shooting and firebombing war that came to a close at the end of 24. But Original Gangsters podcast, please like, share, and subscribe. Uncovering the underworld, one city, one region, one country at a time. We'll see you next time. Scott Burnstein. I'm out.